Let's go back to Terminal 1. Air Canada flight attendants are holding a demonstration at Pearson Airport this hour as part of what their union is calling a national day of action as a potential strike deadline looms. One of the
regulated safety checks, which
right
we
now.
do an hour prior to boarding, we are not compensated for. Boarding, deplaning, if we're helping a passenger on the ground that is having a medical emergency, we're not compensated for that either. So it's a large portion of our workday. It averages about 35 hours a month that we are at work, not paid.
It has been a really long time to both negotiate and just try to get an outcome here. Are you hopeful that this will happen?
Of course. I have faith in our union to be able to negotiate a fair collective agreement with our employer.
And Shannon, we just missed you in the beginning there. Can you please summarize what's happening today with the silent protest? We see hundreds of flight attendants lining Terminal 1.
Absolutely. So we're here in a silent demonstration to signify the fact that we don't need to speak because our union is doing a clear job speaking clearly and concisely about what demands we have at the table for us to be able to ratify a tentative agreement.
And the last collective agreement was 10 years ago. How much has changed since then? Why call for major changes to the unpaid work rule right now?
Our wages have not kept up anywhere near inflation. $1,900 a month, I think everybody can agree, is nowhere near a livable wage when you're expected to live close to airports, which are in major cities. Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, Montreal. It's putting you below poverty wages. When you look at a scale of a full-time worker on minimum wage, we're making less.
Will you give us a timeline on future job action, what that could look like and how that could impact passengers?
Nothing is for certain. A lot of the all of the bargaining is happening at the bargaining table with our employer. We will follow the direction of our union. If they put in a 72-hour notice of any work stoppage, we will follow suit, and that could happen on Saturday at midnight 01.
How important are flight attendants? Essentially, no flight attendants, no flights?
Exactly. So we actually are federally regulated. We are trained under Transport Canada regulations. We have to complete our regulatory training every 12 months to stay qualified to be able to do our job. So if we're not on the aircraft doesn't take off.
So how many people are gathering today?
So I haven't exactly counted. The last look, I believe it was supposed to be around 500. That's not a for certain number, but if we look at our membership at a whole, it's around 10,000 members.
So everyone who joining here from the different locations gathering here in Toronto? Or?
So we have different locations across the country. So in our major hubs, we have them in Vancouver. We also have them in Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, and a former base, Halifax.
Right. So for now, nobody's walking, still some people are walking behind, or everyone is gathering here, or what is the current situation?
We have gathered here. I can't speak for what's happening when I'm not there, but I do know that this group of people, we are here, we are standing in solidarity, we are standing in silence of support of our union.
And how are you feeling right now, just looking at the image here, hundreds of your colleagues all standing in solidarity, everyone driving by, turning their heads, honking their horns. How are you feeling?
I'm very proud. I'm very proud of us taking a stand. It's a beautiful thing to see so many of our colleagues standing together in solidarity. We had a 99.7% vote in favor of the 94.6%, I believe it was, that voted of the membership. So 99.7% to vote to yes, to walk out in support of our union is a remarkably powerful number.
And that number also shows a level of unhappiness with how things currently are. Are there any stories you can tell about specific situations that your flight attendants are going through that they want addressed?
We had a food bank set up in our local office because we have flight attendants that can't afford to eat. We have flight attendants living in multiple rooms in bunk beds because they can't afford. We have flight attendants who are fabulous at their job, and it could potentially be a breaking point between them choosing, do I stay in a career I love, or do I allow myself to be able to eat? That shouldn't be the case. We're safety professionals first and foremost. We should be compensated properly and fairly for the work that we do. So I'm very proud of everybody that is here.
So for the compensation, for how periods, since when it's going to start as to asking for the compensation and until now.
Pardon? I'm
So
sorry.
I mean, like the periods of time that you're asking. So how many months and how many hours that need to compensate by the Air Canada?
How many hours?
Yeah.
So when we look at the unpaid work portion,
yeah.
it averages about 35 hours a month that we're
Since
at work
when?
unpaid.
Since when?
So this is an industry standard, and I think that's a fair thing to say. Be like, why now? Why now is this becoming a forefront? Well, it's 2025, times are changing, and just because something worked historically does not mean it works from here on out.
Okay, can you tell me a comment for the customers? Like maybe there might be worse scenarios, like flights going to be delayed, or what do you want to say?
We empathize with it. We want the aircrafts to take off on time. We're here because we love our job. We don't want to walk out. We want to be able to demonstrate that we are standing here in support of our union, and we hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, then we are prepared.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And you have just been listening to the spokesperson for the flight attendants here. As you can see, hundreds of them are lining up at Terminal 1 for a silent protest. This is one of 4 happening across the country, also in Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver. This is as labor negotiations reach a critical deadline. If a deal cannot be reached, these flight attendants could be walking off the job as early as Saturday, and that means flights could be grounded at Canada's largest airline. And you see the signs: unfair Canada, unfair A Canada, poverty, wages, un-Canadian. The main issue here has to do with wages and work rules, specifically unpaid work. Right now, flight attendants, they only get paid for the time the flight is actually in the air. So the time before the flight, such as loading passengers, safety checks, they aren't paid for that work. And we just heard from the spokesperson there who tells us in any given month they work roughly 35 hours unpaid because of this unpaid rule, essentially working a week every single month without getting paid. And now they're saying these workers have to choose between working a job they love and paying the bills. And just taking a look at the terminal over here, but we are speaking with different people about this situation. But the last time there was a collective agreement was 10 years ago. So these workers are really just saying it is an outdated practice, and they are hoping for this to come to an end. But the timeline for all of this is possible Saturday as the earliest disruption for those flights. Pearson Airport do tell us that there are no flights being canceled because of this specific protest. However, Phil, they are telling people to get to the airport early just as a precaution.
Yeah, and mentioning, there's a food bank in one of the local union offices because people have to choose, as you said, between paying rent and getting food. All right, CJ Liu, thank you so much. We appreciate the recap of that chat with one of the union leaders.